Horses in Red. Chapter 1, Looking at the End of the World. Lan Ruyun, the youngest daughter of the Lanling Wang family, has been a limelight figure in the capital since she was a child. Her appearance is like the moonlight, outstanding and delicate, jade bones and ice muscles, snow white as porcelain, but she does not boast of her appearance, but with her bold personality of wearing red clothes, riding horses and whips, and acting quickly, she has captured the countless eyes of the people around her. From childhood to adulthood, she has always been the pearl of the palace and has been pampered, but she has also developed her flamboyant and enthusiastic temperament. Everyone knows that she has a well-known secret: she likes the prince, starting from that palace banquet. Lan Ruyun, who was only 12 years old, saw for the first time the prince who sat on the top and hung high like a lonely moon at a grand palace banquet, Gu Xingyun. The prince was extremely handsome, and her elegant posture and cold temperament made her heart ripple, and since then, she has a deep love for this noble and unreachable prince brother. She never told anyone what she wanted, but whenever the prince appeared, her eyes couldn't help but follow. Even though he was like the moon on a mountain, out of reach, he made her world as bright as day. Chapter 2, The Oath of the Red Cloak. Time passed quietly day by day. Lan Ruyun gradually grew up, and her personality became more and more flamboyant. She was no longer satisfied with the comfortable life in the palace, and she was no longer visible in the courtyard of the palace. She loves to ride horses, practice bows and arrows, and even challenge herself by flipping and jumping between trees. Her energy and heroism amazed all who met her, but she always kept that deep secret in her heart, a love she couldn't let go. One day, Lan Ruyun put on the fiery red dress again and rode out of the palace. Her mood was extremely excited, as if she was trying to escape something, or to welcome something. She made a beeline for a bamboo forest on the outskirts of the capital, which was her favorite place. She likes to stand in the depths of the bamboo forest and listen to the rustle of the wind through the bamboo leaves, which is a comfort and a quiet contemplation. However, just as she stopped for a moment in the bamboo forest, the sound of horses' hooves in the distance made her turn suddenly. Her heart was beating faster, because of that voice. Lan Ruyun was very familiar. It was the carriage of the Crown Prince Gu Xingyun. Her heart couldn't help but tremble, and her footsteps stagnated slightly, but then she quickly raised her head, and the moment she met the prince's gaze, the air between the two seemed to freeze. Gu Xingyun didn't speak immediately, but stopped his horse. His eyes swept over her red clothes, and his gaze unconsciously stayed on her. Lan Ruyun was a little disturbed, quickly lowered her head, and secretly told herself in her heart that at this moment, she had to behave differently than before. "Miss Lan, playing here again?" Gu Xingyun spoke softly. His tone was gentle but dignified, like an invisible barrier, making it impossible for people to approach easily. Lan Ruyun was stunned, raised her head, forcibly held back her emotions, and tried to make herself appear calm. "Brother Prince, this is a place I often come to, and I came here for a walk here by chance today, so I didn't disturb the prince, right?" Gu Xingyun smiled slightly, with a faint smile in his eyes. "How can it be? Miss Lan is so casual, but it makes people feel that there is a different flavor." Lan Ruyun's cheeks were slightly red, but she still stubbornly raised her head and looked at Gu Xingyun. "I couldn't help but swear secretly in my heart that she must let this unreachable prince brother notice her." Chapter 3, Reunion at the Palace Banquet. With the passage of time, Lan Ruyun's age has become more and more mature, and she has become one of the most dazzling girls in the capital. However, what has never changed in her heart is her love for Gu Xingyun. One day, the palace held a grand palace banquet again, and Lan Ruyun was invited to participate. This time, Prince Gu Xingyun will personally preside over the banquet, which is an unmissable opportunity for Lan Ruyun. That night, the banquet arrived as scheduled, with the lights on, the candle light flickering, and the brilliant pearls and agate flickering in the banquet hall. Lan Ruyun's figure was as dazzling as ever. She was wearing a red silk dress, full of brilliance, like a meteor in the sky, passing in front of everyone's eyes. Prince Gu Xingyun sat on the top. His eyes were like a cold lake, quiet and profound, as if he had never been disturbed by anything. This night, Lan Ruyun sat in the banquet hall, but her eyes could not be taken off the prince's body. Suddenly, a sound of wind came. Gu Xingyun's gaze moved slightly, and he seemed to notice her gaze, and the eyes of the two met in the air, and the short freeze made Lan Ruyun's heartbeat involuntarily speed up. Gu Xingyun smiled slightly, whispered to the guards beside him, and then got up and walked towards Lan Ruyun. This move instantly surprised everyone present. "Miss Lan, can you teach me tonight?" Gu Xingyun's tone was still gentle, but there was a hint of deep meaning in his eyes. Lan Ruyun's heart was beating like thunder, but she still raised her head firmly and responded, "Brother Prince, if there is anything inappropriate, please give me more advice." The conversation between the two was brief, but it made the air around them seem to condense, and all eyes were focused on them. And at this moment, Lan Ruyun felt an unprecedented power surging in her heart, and she decided that she would no longer hold back her feelings for Gu Xingyun. Chapter 4, Hearts and Oaths. After the palace banquet, Lan Ruyun returned to the palace, and her mood could not be calmed for a long time. Gu Xingyun's actions have made her world change subtly, and she can no longer ignore her inner desires. One night, when she came to the bamboo forest again, she met Gu Xingyun by chance. This time, the two no longer maintained a distance of distancing, but stood closer together, almost feeling each other's breathing. Gu Xingyun said in a low voice, "Miss Lan, I know the emotions in your heart. Are you willing to walk with me and face the storm of the future together?" Lan Ruyun's heart was shocked, and at this moment, she finally heard the words she longed for the most. She slowly raised her head, her eyes flashing with determination. "Brother Prince, if you treat me sincerely, I am willing to spend my life hand in hand with you." The corners of Gu Xingyun's mouth raised slightly, and there was deep tenderness in his eyes. "Then, from now on, you will no longer be alone, and you will fight side by side with me." Chapter 5, The Red Oath. With the vows of the two, Lan Ruyun's life is no longer a simple dream and desire. The relationship between her and Gu Xingyun also began to develop slowly, and all this is not just as simple as love. She and Gu Xingyun will face the intrigues and challenges in the court together, and the two will work hand in hand to challenge fate and meet the storm of the future. Riding a horse in red, the oath is forever. This is her promise to the Crown Prince, and it is also an indelible belief in her heart. Chapter 6, The Dark Tide is Turbulent. After Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun's oath, the situation in the capital began to change quietly. Although the two are still busy on the surface, Lan Ruyun has gradually become an indispensable presence by the prince's side. And inside and outside the court, the dark tide is surging, and some unknown conspiracies and old things begin to surface. One day, Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun attended a banquet hosted by the emperor together. At the banquet, many nobles and court ministers gathered, and the atmosphere was tense and majestic. However, Lan Ruyun noticed something unusual. Several high-ranking officials whispered among themselves, their expressions cautious, as if they were discussing something. Gu Xingyun noticed her gaze and whispered in her ear, "Ruyun, beware of some people who are not satisfied with the status quo and try to take the opportunity to stir up the storm." Lan Ruyun was slightly startled and looked at him with doubts in his eyes. "What does Brother Prince mean?" Gu Xingyun smiled indifferently, but there was a trace of imperceptible gloom in his eyes. "Some people are unwilling to the strong rise of the Crown Prince and want to create chaos, and they may even do it behind their backs." Lan Ruyun's heart tightened, and this time, her determination was even stronger. She knows that the relationship between herself and Gu Xingyun is no longer just a lover's love, but also carries greater responsibilities and missions. She had to stand by his side and help him walk along this path full of risks and challenges. Chapter 7, The Assassination Plan. After the banquet, the relationship between Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun became closer and closer. Gu Xingyun regarded her as a confidant, and she gradually showed her intelligence and courage. Although on the surface she is still the unruly girl in red, in Gu Xingyun's heart, Lan Ruyun is not only his lover, but also his most solid supporter. However, the crisis has come unconsciously. One day, Gu Xingyun suddenly received a secret letter with a line of words written on it. "The hidden dangers around the prince are increasing day by day." Gu Xingyun frowned slightly, and immediately handed over the secret letter to Lan Ruyun. Lan Ruyun carefully read the contents of the letter and found that it was a plan for the assassination of the Crown Prince. Secretly, there is a force planning to assassinate Gu Xingyun in the upcoming court meeting, and the target is the public event that the prince will attend that day. Lan Ruyun was horrified in her heart, but she did not panic, but quickly calmed down. She knew that Gu Xingyun's safety was a top priority, and any slightest negligence could bring disaster. After discussing with Gu Xingyun, she decided to convey this plan to a few trusted henchmen and secretly take precautions. At this time, Lan Ruyun decided to use her influence in the capital to spread the news in an inconspicuous way, so that all possible crises had nowhere to hide. Chapter 8, Dealing with the Enemy. After the plan began to be implemented, Lan Ruyun found that things were not as simple as she expected. Her actions alerted some people, and she began to notice something strange about some people around her. In particular, some of the former courtiers in the court seemed to be beginning to show unfriendly attitudes towards her. One day, Lan Ruyun was practicing bows and arrows in the backyard of the palace when he suddenly heard a hurried footsteps. She turned her head and saw that it was the Crown Prince Gu Xingyun. "Brother Prince." Lan Ruyun stopped what she was doing in surprise. Gu Xingyun stood in front of her, his eyes full of worry. "Ruyun, the situation is even more tense now. You have to be careful, some people start to turn against you." Lan Ruyun's heart was shocked, and she was silent for a moment, and then responded calmly, "I know, Brother Prince. I'll be careful." However, deep down, she felt a faint sense of unease. She felt that some conspiracies had quietly happened, and the environment in which she and Gu Xingyun were located was far more dangerous than she imagined. That night, Lan Ruyun suddenly woke up in her sleep and heard a small sound outside the window. She quickly got up, gently opened the window, and found several strange men in black quietly sneaking into the palace. She didn't panic, but quickly informed Gu Xingyun of the situation. Gu Xingyun also reacted immediately, ordering the guards of the palace to quickly surround it, successfully stopping this sudden attack. Lan Ruyun strengthened her determination at this moment. No matter what the future holds, she will spend it hand in hand with Gu Xingyun, whether it is love or danger, she will not retreat. Chapter 9, The Final Showdown. As the days passed, the relationship between Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun became closer and closer, and the cooperation and tacit understanding between the two reached an unprecedented level. The situation in the capital is also becoming increasingly turbulent, and all the contradictions and conspiracies finally erupt in a grand court meeting. On that day, Gu Xingyun stood on top of the court, facing many courtiers. His eyes flashed with coldness, and his tone was firm. At this moment, all the conspiracies and betrayals have nowhere to hide. At this moment, a minister suddenly drew his sword and pointed it at Gu Xingyun. Lan Ruyun was shocked, and quickly jumped in front of the prince and blocked the minister's attack. Ruyun. Gu Xingyun was shocked and hurriedly pulled her behind him. However, Lan Ruyun was not afraid and looked at the minister coldly. Do you think such a conspiracy can stop the rise of the crown prince? In the stunned eyes of everyone, Lan Ruyun's eyes were full of decisive light. She knew that at this moment, the future between her and Gu Xingyun would usher in a real decisive battle. The battle began, and Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun stood shoulder to shoulder against enemies from all sides. Her red robe fluttered across the battlefield like a flame, burning with all intrigue and betrayal. In the end, after a hard struggle, Gu Xingyun successfully defeated all the enemies and regained the dignity and power of the crown prince. And Lan Ruyun has become the staunchest supporter and lover in his life. Chapter 10, The Eternity of the Red Oath. After experiencing countless twists and turns and challenges, Gu Xingyun and Lan Ruyun finally stood at the peak of the capital. The crown prince's prestige was restored, and Lan Ruyun became his most powerful assistant and companion. The red clothes are still the same, like fire. This relationship will never end. Lan Ruyun and Gu Xingyun joined hands and walked towards their own future.